All right, here is for the individual on Twitter that was calling Baker Mayfield an idiot for throwing this pick because the guy inside is wide open. All right, so let's take a look at this. So this is basically a double seam combination. Seam, seam, stop, stop, okay? And they're going to give him a cover 4 look, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so take a look at the play first. Okay, here we go. Here's the guy that was wide open. Yeah, we throw that. You tell me what's going to happen. Obviously, the guy wasn't wide open, but the screenshot, let's cut the safety out of the picture, and let's say Baker should have thrown it inside. Okay, so that was first and foremost not the case. That guy's not open, not the case. Okay, so ultimately, leads to an interception. Okay, why the interception? All right, so I'm going to teach you guys just how I look at the game. And first thing I'll say is there's a lot of teams in the league that will do it just like this, and a lot of teams in the league that don't see the game like I see the game. And so this is not abnormal. What you see here is not different than what most teams in the league do. Okay, and for Baker, when I see a cover 4 look, I'm doing exactly what Baker does. I am Xing out the inside guys, okay, these two seams. I'm Xing out the inside guys, and I'm going right to my one-on-one on the outside. Why are you doing that, Kurt? Well, because the goal of this defender and this defender, okay, the goal is to not let number 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, to not let number 2 get inside of them. Okay, so their responsibility is to stay inside number 2 until he goes past them on the outside, and then they can work hook to flat area of the field. Okay, so by not letting that guy get inside, it's really tough to get inside a quarter safety who also is not supposed to let number 2 get inside. Okay, so both of the responsibilities of the linebackers and the safeties are don't let anybody attack the middle of the field. We got a middle open defense. Don't let them attack the middle of the field. That is our goal. So I'm not going to look in here because, first of all, that linebacker is going to try to push him and wash him deep, and then it's going to be hard for him to cross over the safety's face. Okay, so knowing that, okay, here's what happens. They get, see how wide they get? See how wide they get with the push? Now, these safeties are actually fairly deep 4 quarters. And so if you possibly anticipate that this is going to happen and can maybe put it on the body of those guys with perfect timing and a perfect throw, okay, maybe that happens, but I'm still going to contest, both of these guys, if they're reading the quarterback, are probably going to drive in that situation and hit those seams. But more times than not, these guys aren't quite that deep in a quarter's coverage. They're both bailing and getting really deep, 20-some yards deep, which, okay, could maybe give you an opportunity if all the other factors were right. But because of what their responsibilities should be and where they normally play, those are just really tough to hit. I see quarterbacks try to hit those all the time, try to hang on it all the time, and it rarely gets open. Every once in a while, you can hit it, great. But again, you play to what you know the responsibilities of the defense are and what gives you the best opportunity to succeed on either side. And again, you see it, right? You see it down here on the bottom, okay? This would be the throw to the bottom, get it out on time. This guy plays through, and you see how wide he's able to push that number 2 guy, and then he plays through, and he's the one that intercepts it right here. Okay, now the real teaching point, okay? For me, when I teach this, what I teach these number 2 guys to do is a normal seam is what we're seeing right here. Widen and go up inside edge of the numbers on both sides. And that is designed for when a team rotates to middle closed, okay, and we want to work this middle safety, so we want to work him as wide as possible, okay? Inside numbers to inside numbers, we want you guys wide. Okay, so that's how a seam always starts, and most teams in the league just kind of lock it that way and say, hey, if you run it that way and then you get to this point and there's a safety inside of you, do your best to try to wrap and get underneath him, which is really, really hard to do, okay, as we already discussed. So what do I teach my guys on seam? What I teach them is if they have a safety over their head, okay, so it's some sort of too high shell, what we're going to do is we're going to seam inside, okay? We're going to seam inside on this, okay? And so then if you see that and you seam inside and this guy rotates at the last second, do your best to get your width there, okay? But if you have a safety over your head, I want you to seam inside, okay? And then we're going to push up and we're going to run the same sort of route. Okay, Kurt, why are you doing that? Okay, and it's twofold. It speaks to both the things that I've already talked to you guys about, knowing the responsibility of the defense. Okay, knowing the responsibility of the defense. I know that the linebacker and the safety both want to take away the inside. Okay, so why are you going inside? Well, I'm going inside for the most part to open up this guy out here with the one-on-one. So if I seam inside with number 2, okay, if I seam inside here and this guy does his job, he should step down, sink inside, try to take away the inside for me right there. And if he does that, I guarantee you he will not pick off this pass to the outside. Okay, so that's part one of why I seam. I seam to hold the outside linebacker and open up the one-on-one of the outside against quarters because that's what I want to throw and that's what I know the responsibility of the defense is. Okay, part two. If this guy doesn't do his job in that regard, if he doesn't want to take away the inside or he gets beat to the inside and wants to buzz out there for some reason, even though that's not really his responsibility, now what it does is it gives me a better chance and leverage on the safety as well. So it has double purposes. Hold the outside linebacker, great. I throw the stop. Outside linebacker doesn't want to hold you. Now I get a true opportunity here, okay? So if that's the case here and he goes inside, again, I'm going to bet more times than not this guy's going to try to jam him, contact him, and we have the outside. But if not, you're going to see where the relationship would be of this seam guy. So if this guy's here, there is a much better chance of beating this safety if all of those other things happen than if this guy has to beat him and cross his face from out there, right? There's 5 yards that he's got to cover. And I know we can look at it on a screenshot and say, man, you should fit it in that window. Well, this guy drives and this guy's holding inside leverage. We throw it a little bit late. That guy's getting blown up every single time. But by outside releasing, we are allowing everything the defense wants. This guy wants you to go outside of him. This guy wants you to go wide so he can play through you, contact through you, and work to the outside, and he wins no matter what. And it's why we design plays to understand what we're trying to do, okay? So if they go to cover two, same thing. This guy wants to stop me from going inside, okay? But I don't care if he wants to try to stop me. And it's the other thing I should say is that just because we seam inside does not mean we have to go inside, okay? So if we seam inside and this guy jumps inside of us, no problem. Go outside of him at that point. We just have a landmark that we're going to go 2 to 3 yards inside to hold that defender, to try to get inside that defender. And if we can't, then we jump up over the top of him when we've got that landmark, because the landmark, again, is about beating the safeties, okay? More than anything else, I'm running my route to beat the safety. I'm obviously running my route to help my outside guy get open, but that's going to give us the advantage spacing-wise. So it's the same thing if it's cover two. Okay, this is probably going to convert to a go route out here, and we're going to get a 2-on-1 off of this safety. Just like cover three, we get 2-on-1 on the two seams, 2-on-1 against this safety in cover two. And what I'm trying to do is create the most amount of space between these two guys, so this guy has to cover the most grass on the field that he possibly can. Same idea would hold true if they go to cover two, okay, and I widen way out here, and run this and then run the go, we've condensed all this space that this safety has to cover, and we make the game easier on him across the board, okay? So everything, right? I talk about it all the time. Why? Why? Why are we outside releasing here against a too high safety? Well, I think the answer for most people is, hey, we're doing the same thing no matter what. We're keeping it simple on everybody. We're going to do the same thing no matter what. I get it, but the same thing no matter what is not always the best way to do things. And so I'm going to teach my guys. I'm going to teach my guys to be smart. I'm going to teach my guys to see something. All you got to see is there's a safety over your head right here. There's a safety over your head. I want you to seam inside. Okay? Seam inside. You're going to read it. If you feel rotation, get back as wide as you possibly can. Okay? So, yeah, it could possibly cost us a little bit. Could possibly cost us a little bit with middle close if we don't get quite the width we want. But again, we're going to base it off of what our initial look is and the initial feel that we have, and then we'll adjust from there. But biggest thing is when we get too high, which again is more of a structure that we're going to see throughout most of the NFL, more too high than single high zone coverage. Obviously it's out there, but see more of this. So I see a guy over my head. I am going to come off looking at him, see if he rotates. If he doesn't, I'm giving myself, I'm giving this play, I'm giving my buddies, I'm giving my quarterback an easier way and a better chance to be able to read this out because I'm attacking the responsibilities of the defense to make this one play more advantageous across the board and eliminate things like this that can happen by just running everything exactly the same. I mean, we tell a guy on the outside, hey, you're running a stop route. But if they do this, you're going to turn it into a go route. And if they do this, you're going to stay on the stop route. All that stuff, I'm going to do the same thing with these guys. It's not rocket science. It's not overcomplicated. You got two different things you could do. You run a lock seam or you run a seam release seam route. And we get the best of both worlds and we free up this quarterback to say, okay, it's quarters coverage. I don't like the inside ones. I'm going to go throw my stop on the outside, and I really shouldn't have to worry about that outside linebacker. Although Baker, you got to see the outside linebacker, of course. We still have to read it through in case it doesn't happen. But right here, we're basically saying you got to go to your outside guy. He tries to go to his outside guy. Defender does a nice job of just playing through it, but we just make it so easy on him because we're playing right into his movement right off the bat. Boom, interception, and that's why those things happen.